Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Perpetual Chess. The summer reunion tour will continue in a moment. We've got a return guest from 2019 that I'm excited to reintroduce. But first, wanted to thank our sponsors, Chessable.com. We will be discussing Chessable plenty because, A, I finished recording the video course for my course. It's supposed to be out at the end of August. And man, recording that video was even more challenging than recording an audiobook. I wasn't prepared for that, but hopefully it came out well. And our guest has a new course on the English defense that we will be discussing among his many other offerings. If you sign up for Chessable Pro, use the link in the description. To tell you a bit more about our guest, so he's an award-winning and prolific Chessable author. He's also an opening and a blitz specialist. His love for going deep in the weeds of opening theory and exploring unexplored sort of hidden spots comes across as he works through developing the theory and shares it on X. He's also a Poland-based dad, and I'm excited to welcome him back to the pod. Kamil Plichta, FM. Kamil Plichta. How are you, Kamil?
Thank you, Ben, for the introduction. It's been a long time. I'm very excited to be here again and to share some stories,
Yeah, it's long overdue because here on the pod, Kamil, like on the one hand, I try not to have too many return guests. But on the other hand, there's people like you who I felt like you were very funny in our first interview and you've got a lot of good chess insight to share. And it's been 5 years and somehow I still hadn't invited you back. So it's like a delicate balance, but long overdue, as I said. And Kamil, I wanted to start, so we've got a lot of topics to cover. I'm going to pick your brains about openings generally because you've written so many courses and, as I said, have such a sort of evident joy for exploring opening theory. You've been like name-checked by Hikaru Nakamura as he goes through your courses. So I'm excited to pick your brain about a few openings. But first I wanted to talk chess improvement because I know you're like one of the strongest FMs, 3,000 bullet. What's your online blitz rating these days?
I would have to check, but my personal best would be something like 2830 on Lichess, 2970 on chess.com, I would say.
Yeah, so a very strong FM, and you've got 2 IM norms, right?
Yeah.
And I know that family and work sometimes prevent you from playing as much as you would like, as happens for so many of us. But you did recently share on X what I thought was an interesting topic to explore further, which is related to the idea of playing up. So I'll just read what you wrote. A free piece of advice. When I started playing chess, I always tried to learn from players who were 1 to 2 classes above me, watch their games, tried to understand what they were doing differently. When I got stronger, I still followed this strategy. When I was 1900, I looked at 2100s. When I was 2200, I looked at 2300 to 2400 and so on. At the moment, I'm 2400 and following people who are rated 2500 to 2550. So I'd love to hear you explain more about that because I do feel like so many people are studying the games of these super grandmasters, and I'm not sure if it's best, especially the lower you go down the rating ladder.
So I would say I would start with that. The fact that it worked for me doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody. Everybody has his own style. Everybody has their own character, and the fact that it worked for me doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody. For example, if you are a very aspiring junior player, let's say that you're a parent whose kid is 10 years old and he's improving very fast. For him, studying classics is one of the most important things because probably he's going to really try to get a grandmaster and play against strong players. So doing those classics is very important. But I would say 90 to 95% plus of players are not in that category. I started very late, and that meant that I started looking for some paths that are a little bit less explored. And one of those was that, for example, I've never played the Ruy Lopez with white, let's say. I never played the Italian. If I played the Italian, it was some sharp version of the Italian, like c3, d4, or stuff like that. I've never played those classical openings. Like the Queen's Gambit Declined, I only picked this year. And never, ever I touched with the black pieces. Okay, then I can spend a lot of time reading the classics, studying the classics, where those openings, for example, are played, where those structures are explored and explained in detail. But is it really going to be that much of an improvement for me if I just don't play those structures? Okay, to some extent, probably it's going to be. So I started looking for alternatives ways of studying, and what I really always liked is trying to see how players who are like 1-2 classes stronger than me, how they are playing, and what they are doing differently so that they are better than me. It really helped me. At the beginning it was very easy because after my first tournament I attended the club where there were like no coaches, no classes. There were just a bunch of guys meeting and playing chess against each other. And at the first few meetings, I was beaten by everybody. So it was easy to look at stronger players because everybody was stronger than me.
How old were you again when you
12.
started?
12.
Okay.
At 12, I was 12. It was 7th September 2002 when I played my first rapid tournament. I remember I scored 2 points. One because there was not an even number of players, so I got a bye. So I got a 3 point, and the other game I won against the guy who also was playing the first tournament. And then I really loved chess. Even though I played terribly back then, I started going every week. I remember after school, it didn't matter to me. It was rain, snow, really didn't matter. I went there. The meetings were from like 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. And for 4 hours, I was sitting there and getting beaten by everybody. But after a few months, I really started to see some patterns in their games. I started blundering less, and from time to time, I won 1 or 2 games. And after 1.5 years, I started beating those guys, or like on daily basis. And I really, really liked this process because I felt I didn't really do anything extraordinary. I didn't read any books. I didn't have any chess. I had a chess program back then. Maybe this is also important. It wasn't like a Fritz or anything like that, but it was Lego chess.
I'm not familiar with that one.
World done from Lego bricks. And there were some lessons done by a king who was also made of Lego bricks. You know, when you go to YouTube and you type Lego chess, you will see videos and animations from that game. I was playing it a little bit, but I would say that the vast majority of my improvement was just by observing other people and making sure that I implement some things that they are doing. Of course, now from the time perspective, they were doing a ton of mistakes. But on my level then, this was exactly the level that I wanted to achieve. It was when I was, let's say my level was like 1400 back then. I could see how people 2300 are playing, but I couldn't even dream that at some point I'm going to achieve that level. That's one thing. The other thing is that if I see their games, it would be really tough to understand for me anything, because their level would be so high that I wasn't even in a position that allows me to understand what is going on in their games. But when somebody is 1-2 levels above you, you still understand many things, because this is like your level, but they are doing some things a little bit better, not much better, a little bit. And this a little bit is this one step I wanted to make at the time.
Yeah, you highlight an important point. And here in this modern digital age, Kamil, I think that's part of the reason that people really like this climbing the rating ladder series that people like Naroditsky do. Do you think that watching like a player of his caliber beat up on lower rated players and ascend the ranks, is that like a decent substitute, or does it really need to be the next level up and not a grandmaster kind of posing as the next level up?
Yeah, I think with this gap of in the level, I think it's what is really important is if the person who is doing this type of speedrun is explaining everything. Because let's say he's like 2600 in real life. And if he's going to explain in a way like he would talk to a fellow grandmasters, I doubt that you are going to be able to understand the subtleties of the games and the positions. But if he's going to really adjust his level of commentary to the level that he's playing at, this can be priceless.
Yeah.
I'm honestly I'm not like a big fan of those speedruns. If I'm watching any type of videos, I'm rather watching them just play chess. But I know many people who really love it, and whatever works for you.
Yeah. And these days in the computer age, there's a lot more people could try doing, like, on like a Lichess amateur database, you could just look at like reams of games 200 points above you. Whereas back in the day at the club, you're just trying to overhear what like the one person 200 points above you says, or go through his or her games.
Yeah, sometimes even I heard those type of, because you meet different kinds of people. Some people are really going to try to help you. Some people are just really trying to show how good they are. If you meet the second type of person who is sometimes going to speak things that are not really like true or going to be helpful, but he just wants to be right, then it can, I think, more hurt you than to help you. It's always if you get all of this information, it's always important to select the information that you think is good and that you think is bad.
Yeah, and you kind of have to judge it on your own, because I definitely do feel like that is like a particular type of like chess person that sort of know-it-all, that likes to show off. But yeah, I generally strongly agree with your advice about, and someone like Nate Solon has written about, even watching, like for him as like, 2400-ish player, he says he loves watching how like 2500s beat 2300s as well. So yeah, I definitely think that there's something there. And Kamil, so you've mentioned a couple times that you're close to the IM pursuit. We love title pursuits here on Perpetual Chess. What's going on with that?
Oh, that's a very good question. And it's like, in the first interview, I was also, I would say, pretty close to an IM. So what on earth happened here? That might
you've
be
had
the
what,
right
one or
question.
2 kids since then?
I have one that I know
Okay.
of. So basically what happens is that, I'm pretty sure that most of your viewers know about how do you get a title in chess and stuff, but to make sure that everything is like 100% understandable about the IM title, you need to fulfill a few requirements to get a title. First and foremost, you have to cross 2400 rating points on classical FIDE rating. This has already been done like 5 or 6 years ago. I was already there. Then I went down, then I got back to 2400 again. So this requirement is done. Then you have to score 3 IM norms. What does it mean to score a norm? This means that I have to go to the tournament with classical time control and score a rating performance of 2450 or above, and 2 requirements have to be done. I have to play at least with 3 people with an IM or GM title, and I have to play against people from 3 different federations. The second requirement makes a lot of sense because it prevents norm fixing, for example. Like there are 10 friends from the same country playing against each other.
Discourages norm fixing. I don't know if it prevents it, but anyway,
yeah, of course. And the third requirement, which is pretty new, is that one of the norms that you score have to be from an open tournament. It cannot be from round robin. I have 2 norms from round robin tournaments. The first one I scored in 2019 or 18, I don't remember. The second one I scored in 2020. And to be honest, like now I played the tournament in Belgrade. I'm pretty sure we are going to talk about it. But my previous open tournament that I played, I even couldn't believe it myself because I checked it previously. I have to triple check if it's correct. It was January 2020 in Lisbon.
Wow.
4.5 years ago, I played my last open tournament, except for the one that I played now in Belgrade. So even if I had tournaments where I played well, I didn't even have a chance to score.
Right. Well, so the question becomes, I mean, I'm sure there's valid reasons related to work and family, as there often are, but why not play more?
Honestly, like, I always have 2 versions of the answer to the question. The first one is that I don't have time, and the second one is excuses.
Yeah,
a lot of excuses.
You got plenty of company there. But go on.
Bad time management in my life, like wasting time on stuff that are not that important. I could really, really manage my time better and play at least 2 tournaments a year. That wouldn't be a problem. But it would be a hard way, because then you have to prepare, train, and stuff like that.
It's funny, because when I look at your Chessable output, it seems like you work hard, but I guess...
Oh, yes.
So you work hard, yes, but in your downtime, you could be doing...
Yes, at work, I always give 110% out of me.
Yeah.
And when I'm not working.
Yeah, and it's hard. Like, as it's come up many times on this podcast, when you work in chess, when you're making chess content, for your then vacation time to be a chess tournament. Some people, that's what they want to do. But other people, there's at least enough apprehension where you end up putting it off for 4.5 years accidentally. And yeah, the open thing, it's the fact that it needs to be an open tournament. I think I guess it's a good rule. Like, tournaments like the first Saturday, these famed tournaments in Budapest that are invitational. There have been some allegations that, it wouldn't surprise me if like one or two of them have been, there have been bought games at some point in the annals of chess history for sure. We don't know how frequently it happens, but the open tournaments, of course, you're subject to like, you don't know who you're going to play, and you might spend a lot of money, travel, and not even play three people from three different countries, So even if you have a good tournament. So in that respect, the open tournaments, I'm sure, it's a big commitment for an extremely uncertain return.
That's exactly what happened with my case. So far, I played 2 open tournaments in which my performance was over 2,500 even, so way above the needed requirement. But still, once I didn't have a titled player, like I had 3 federations, but I played only against 2 IMs. And the other time I had all the titles, but no federation.
Yeah.
Because it was Polish first league.
Yeah.
And I played mostly against Polish people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if it's any consolation, like of all the people I've interviewed chasing titles, like you're right there. I feel like you would just need to commit to playing 10 open tournaments. Obviously.
Oh, yes.
Obviously, that's a big ask, but it's less than most title chasers have to commit to.
The thing is that I've always told myself that I don't want to chase this norm, and I didn't. And now I'm at this point where I would already like to score it. So that's why I started thinking about playing some tournaments. I played 1 open tournament, which went terribly at the like 2 weeks ago. But now, like on my daily basis, I went back to training, and I'm really, really going to commit to that because, also what I also say is that my chess style is pretty unique. I tend to have pretty crazy games, and this really helps me win more games and lose more games. And because of that, even statistically, like out of those 10 tournaments, 1 is going to be good.
Right. Yeah. As a former poker pro, you are well aware that like variance in this case works in your favor since you have the rating.
Yeah. Yeah. 1 is going to be bad, like now in Belgrade, but then there is going to be 1 where everything works. Yeah. And I'm just waiting for it. And now the only thing I need to do is to just go and play.
So what happened in Belgrade?
What happened in Belgrade? So, I went there alone. That's the first thing which virtually never happened to me because throughout the last 10, 12 years, as far as I know, I went with somebody to the tournament. There was always some company. So here I went alone. It was hot as hell there. I even spoke to locals, and they told me that for like 10, 15 years, they can't remember something like that. For 37 Celsius was like standard. It's hot. It's hot. I cannot tell you how it's in Fahrenheit. But
I'm not fluent in Celsius, but I know that 37 is very hot.
It's hot. But what happened? 1 second, I'm just going to tell you. It's
110.
It's 99
okay,
degrees.
99. All right, go on.
I know if you're probably from Texas or then it's not going to be anything extraordinary for you. But when I live in Poland, close to the sea,
right.
you rarely see this type of anomalies. But chess-wise, what didn't work is, I would say, everything. The things that usually are my biggest strength didn't work, and the things that are my biggest weaknesses worked perfectly. To my opponent's favor, of course. Because the thing is that I usually am pretty good in openings, pretty good in psychology, and putting my opponent under pressure. Out of those 5 games, no preparation worked for me well. Even if it did, it didn't go well. And even if I played well to get a good position, my opponents were fighting like this is like the last game of their life. I don't remember feeling anything like that. It's like my opponents really fought to the end. The first 2 games I was, all 5 games I played against opponents who are theoretically weaker than me. But the first round I was playing black against an IM and I just could do nothing. It was just a draw. The second game I was playing against the candidate master and I tried to win for like 100 moves. My first 3 games lasted over 5 hours each. The third game I was already pretty depressed because I knew that I had good position. My opponent still was defending like there is no tomorrow, and then he made just one final mistake, and it was enough. I won. And round number 4 and 5, my opponents were at some point offering me a draw or repeating the position. I declined, and I lost both games. It wasn't even the result that got me so annoyed at chess. It was the fact that I couldn't calculate a single variation without making a mistake. I don't understand why. I went back from the tournament, I looked at those games, and I was like, it was like the different person was playing those games. I'm pretty sure that many people have that.
Yeah.
They go back from the tournament, they look at it without all of this like stress, all of this, all those things connected when you're with playing the game. And then you'll just look at everything with fresh eyes. It's like, what was I even doing? What was I even thinking at the moment? Like, this decision is obviously stupid. Why did I do this? Like, you'd look from, like, in Poland we have this saying, I'm not sure if it's in the end of at the rest of the world it also works like that when you're playing a game, it's always easier to spot things when you are watching it, not playing. Because then you are not like stressed at the game, you're not involved, and it's easier. I think that's the same. And what happened is that during the game number 5, I calculated every single variation wrong, and there was a position that I knew that is a draw, but I just didn't care. And I started playing like blitz, and I lost. I knew that the position is defendable, and I thought I'm finding the good plan, but then, of course, I've calculated the variation wrong, and I lost. And I was at the mental state where I was like, is this supposed to be like that? That I go to the open tournament, I didn't play for 4.5 years, and I'm sitting here, instead of being happy that I can play chess, I'm absolutely annoyed about the game. So I texted a friend of mine who, like, 1.5 years ago, she was playing a tournament which went terribly bad for her, and she withdrew. And I asked her, does she regret about it? Because this is the only time that she withdrew from the tournament. And the answer was like, hell no, I don't. That was the best decision I could make. So I withdrew from the tournament.
Yeah.
The first time of my life I withdrew from the tournament. I never ever did it before, but it was like I had 4 more days in Belgrade to spend, and every evening there was a blitz tournament also going on. I was very annoyed that the 2 blitz tournaments I couldn't even play because I played my classical games for too long, and I just couldn't get there on time. And even though I couldn't play the blitz, I didn't win those games, so the frustration was really increasing because, for me, blitz, classical.
Yeah.
If blitz is more fun, I prefer blitz. And yeah, this was like the decision. I'm not very proud of it, but when I withdrew from the tournament, I felt like somebody like opened up the chains from my hands and from my legs and threw them away. I hope that I will never ever have to repeat this, like, ever, because it's a shameful thing to withdraw from the tournament. I admit it myself. It's like, I think people who do it should be punished in some way, like to pay double or triple the entry fee, and I'm very happy to do it. If there is an organizer who thinks that I'm a player of like higher risk, that I'm going to withdraw from the tournament, I'm very happy to pay more for that.
Oh, wow. I strongly disagree. I mean, in invitational tournaments and closed round robins, of course, you should never withdraw. But in open tournaments, I mean, you're paying your money. You've bought your ticket. If you go to a ball game, you can leave early if you want. Like, to me, you're playing as an, even though obviously you're an FM and working close to the IM title, like, you're an amateur. You're not playing to derive income. And obviously it's even more the case for me. So I'm playing for fun, and if I'm not having fun, I'm always an advocate. I'm team withdrawal if you're not having fun.
Okay.
Now, if it's happening every tournament, you got to take stock of like something doesn't add up. Why are you doing it if you never have fun at a tournament? But if it's like a once in a while thing, in a big tournament where it's not really felt, like someone might, like your withdrawing might leave the field with an even number where someone who would have gotten a bye gets a game, or it might leave someone who wouldn't get a game with a bye. Like, you have no way of knowing, so you just have to do what's best for you. Now, I've seen people online talk about just not showing up for a game after they're paired. No. Like, absolutely,
That's
don't
different.
do that, but withdrawing, I'm fine with.
Yeah. It's like, I didn't even wait for the pairings to be there. I immediately after the round, I went to take my phone. I texted my friend, spent like 5 minutes rethinking, and then I did it. Thank you for saying that. Now it's easier for me, because many people were telling me that it's a natural thing to
I
do
don't know
it.
how different it is in the US. Here, I mean, in Europe as opposed to the US, but here in the US also, like a lot of the big tournaments are very sort of money oriented. So I think that it's more accepted that, like, if you're not getting a prize, if that's your goal, when I play, I'm not playing for prizes, but I'm very protective of like my mental state at tournaments, and I'm very protective of my energy levels, and I'm not that young. So it's not unusual for me to withdraw, that's for sure.
About this type of situation when you are fighting for nothing, I remember still the scene that I had in Zalakaros tournament in Hungary. I think it was 2016 or 17, where I had a terrible tournament, and I was playing the last round close. I was playing also the same tournament where Vyacheslav Nemec was playing.
Sure.
We were both playing terribly. And I remember the scene that I played the last round. I was fighting for absolutely nothing. And my opponent offered me a draw, and I declined. And he was there with his friends, and all of his friends were already waiting with their bags packed, because they just wanted to go early. And I even though things went terribly wrong, I was still fighting like hell this one game, and I won this game.
Yeah,
it lasted a few hours. But now, this what happens if everything collapsed in my mental state, like those two weeks ago.
Yeah,
it was like everything collapsed. I didn't have a single thing that I enjoyed from playing those classical games. Even things that normally I wouldn't even pay attention to got me annoyed. Like somebody was talking on the playing hall, or somebody was drinking water at the board. I got annoyed by so many things that I decided, no, it's enough.
Yeah,
it's enough. It's enough for me. I'm not playing this tournament. Not this tournament's fault. It's my fault. But I just I take full responsibility.
Yeah.
But it's just I hated chess at that moment.
Yeah, it happens.
With all my power, I hated chess.
Yeah.
And I didn't want that.
Yeah. Well, I've got to follow up, but one final point I just want to make for listeners is one thing I have noticed in these big open tournaments, at least here in the US, is if you do have the energy for the last round and you're kind of out of contention, it's actually a good chance to pick up rating points and play a good game, because there will be a lot of players who don't withdraw, but are obviously going through the motions. There'll be a lot of kids blitzing out moves who like can't tell their parents they don't want to play, but don't want to play. So I've had some, when I am able to stick it out and play in the last round, I've had some easier games than in other rounds. I think people are psychologically fragile and tired, and if you're keyed into that, I think there's opportunity. But only if you're up for it yourself. You could also be that person. Now, as for a follow-up, Kamil, so where do we go from here? Like, how do you regroup? Do you regroup? Do you go back to taking a break? What's next, OTB-wise?
Of course. I always say that the best lessons from chess tournaments are from the ones that went terribly for me. Like the tournament I've played the worst in my life, I took the most lessons from. So what is happening here is that I have this, Serbia Open stuff here. Yeah. It's here. It's always going to be count me.
Nice.
But at the moment, it reminds me of the weaknesses of my play, and that I'm not as good as I thought I am probably, and it's always going. It's always nice to have some sort of a cold shower to force me to go back to training, to solving puzzles, so that I can calculate 2-3 moves variations correctly.
Yeah, the truth hurts, but yeah, it's good to have those harsh reminders up. And yeah, I hope you pick yourself up, because as we've said, you're right there. You just got to suck it up and get that title. Although you've proved it doesn't really matter for your professional advancement.
I will, Ben. Thank you. Thank you. I already did. I'm back at training, something that I didn't do that much in the last 1-2 years. Now I'm back at it.
So how do you train?
Chessable. First things first, I'm making sure that I remember stuff, because there is a very nice myth that many people are talking about, that when you are a Chessable author, you remember all of your lines, and yeah, that's nice that people think like that, but I would say if you didn't train your repertoire, it's like you remember maybe 10% of everything.
I mean,
you remember the plans, you remember the ideas, but the concrete variations you just don't.
Right.
So yesterday I was training my French course.
Okay.
Most things like I didn't remember, but I remember that there was a line like that. But some lines I was like, the first time I'm seeing it, because I just didn't train, and that's what's happening. You stop training, you get out of shape, and people are going to exploit it. And now people are really fighting every game.
Yeah, and I know that you're a blitz and bullet lover. When you're like kind of on at least OTB sabbatical, like, are you one of these people who's playing blitz every day, no matter what, or do you go days without playing blitz or bullet?
I would say I have some periods. Like for 2 weeks, I'm going to play blitz every day at my home for a few hours, and then for 1 month, I just can skip everything.
Yeah.
I can totally skip it. So it's not like with this day. Today I'm going to play for 2 hours. The next day nothing. Then it's 3 hours. It's usually it's like periods.
I'm the same way. Yeah.
It's like you're an addict, chess addict.
Yeah.
Now 2-3 weeks you are clean.
Yep.
And then you just go all in.
Yeah, exactly. Relapse and recovery. I know the cycle all too well. But
I think that's usually how it works, right?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, there are some people who are just always, or at least 95% of the time playing for hours a day. But that's not the case for me. And you recently tweeted that you hit 3,000 bullet for the first time. Way back in our interview in 2019, you gave some blitz tips. But anything that can be shared on a mostly audio chess podcast to improve one's bullet game?
Play faster.
Exactly. Yeah.
Honestly, I know how that is going to sound wrong, but I am not a bullet specialist, and usually my biggest problem in bullet is that I play against people who are faster, not stronger. So yeah, I don't have any specific bullet tips. I think my bullet skill is mostly from blitz because I play pretty well when I'm low on time.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. But about some mouse stuff or flagging, I'm not the right person, I think, to ask. Because I am usually the one that gets flagged, not the one that flags people.
And are you playing real openings or at least your blitz openings when you play? And I'm assuming this is 1 minute chess, by the way?
Yeah, depends on which account I play.
Okay. But is bullet for you primarily 1-0?
Yes,
okay.
Only. Yes. And Blitz is 3-0.
Okay.
Rarely I play other time controls.
Yeah. And
when I played some training games with my friends, for example, I can play 3+2, for example. Or my favorite tempo of playing over the board fun Blitz is 0+8. You get because on the digital clock you put 0 seconds plus 8 seconds. No, sorry, it's 8+2. 8 seconds you have on start and 2 seconds you get an increment. So you're playing 8 seconds plus 2. So you basically never lose on time, but you also never have enough time to just tank.
Huh.
So 8 seconds at the start, 2 second increment.
Interesting.
It's a very, very, very
And you
nice.
can find opponents in that?
No, I'm speaking about playing with my friends at
yeah, that makes sense. Sorry, you did say
where
that.
we meet.
Yeah.
Online, I think it's going to be possible, but not sure. My player pool is usually limited. It's easier to find an opponent when you're 1,800 than 2,800, I would say.
First world problems, man. You're a victim of your own success.
What can I do?
Well, Kamil, I did want to pick your brain, as I mentioned at the beginning, about openings. I mean, just scrolling through your Chessable author page, Accelerated Dragon, King's Indian Attack, Queen's Gambit, Damiano Petrov, French Defense, Trompovsky, Anti-Sicilians. I've mentioned I'm a fan of that one. Four Horsemen, Fearsome Budapest Gambit, King's Indian Defense, King's Indian Attack, the list just goes on and on. So I thought you would be a good person to ask. And obviously some of the courses, some of the openings you advocate for might be covered in your courses. But do you think there are underrated openings for amateur players, or what advice do you give amateur players in terms of selecting a repertoire?
Yeah, so one thing I would start with is that I would say that all the openings that you have mentioned that are not mainlines, you will not find too many mainline openings in my courses. It's like there is Queen's Gambit, for example, but even when I go for the opening that is some sort of mainline-ish, I'm going to still offer some sideline there. So I like to explore new things. I never, like when I'm working on my courses, for example, I never base my works or any existing book or any existing material on anything. It's like the only thing that I try to find out when working on my new course is what type of variations other people are recommending in their books, for example, and then I do everything in my power to avoid them. So basically, my only preparatory idea before working on the course is that I always try to make sure that I'm not going to suggest something that has already been analyzed by somebody else. That's why I try to do my courses as originally as possible. And I think my courses are usually based on openings that are pretty tricky and are going to be surprising for my opponents. This is how I also based my style when playing chess, is that I avoid big main lines because most probably if my opponent plays like e4, e5, he's going to have his line against the Ruy Lopez. He played it a lot. And even if I prepare against him, he's going to have a much higher experience. Does it matter if I'm going to get like plus 0.30 after the opening, the evaluation? It probably does, but then he's going to have more experience in some structure and he's going to probably outplay me. So my recommendation would be definitely, so first, what is important is that I would avoid certain openings for sure. Mm-hmm. It's not like I would recommend some specific opening, but unless you're 2400 FIDE, I would, for example, avoid the Berlin endgame.
Yeah.
Or openings like that where they are going to be very, very technical, dry openings. And they will lead to positions that are going to be pretty technical and tough to understand. So, it's going to be a little bit controversial, but as I've mentioned, I'm not also a fan of Ruy Lopez. I'm not a fan of Italian. I'm also not a 1e4 player, so maybe this is also where it all comes from. But what I like to do is that when you are a specific level, let's say an example, you are 1700 on Lichess. What you should do, in my opinion, is you should go to the database on Lichess and filter the database so that it shows you games of people, let's say, from 1500 to 1900. Then you have a ton of games. You will have millions of games still. And out of those games, you can see what works the best on this type of level. So for example, let's say you are an e4 player and somebody plays the Sicilian against you. Now, spend some time with the tree on Lichess and see what works well. Because for example, the open Sicilian might not be and probably will not be the highest scoring opening on your level. What is probably going to be the highest scoring is some sort of Alapin, some sort of Grand Prix attack, some sort of close Sicilian. And then you can try it and try to implement it into your games. I was really shocked to discover, because when I'm working on my courses, I use Lichess database a lot, and I use amateur database a lot to see how people react to different things. You would be shocked to see how the trend changes on 1700 level and 2400 level, let's say. For example, I was now doing this English defense course. The most popular opening on the level from like 1600 to 2000 is the London system. Like when you are doing the course for master level, let's say, I wouldn't even think about considering that it's going to be so popular, because on master level, okay, the people play it from time to time. But the lower that you get, the bigger the chance that somebody is going to play this London system. So for example, if you are on that level, now you know that your opponent is most likely going to play the London, then learn how to play against the London. What's the reason to learn how to play against some big mainline that, of course, on top level is going to be important, but in your games is going to be played once every 1,000 games?
Right.
Just realize that it exists, learn 1 or 2 lines, that's it. Then spend most of your time on the London.
Yeah, that's excellent advice. And I noticed that in your English defense course, you're quoting the Lichess stats fairly often, yeah. But you've managed to sort of plant your flag super early in that. So some listeners might not even be familiar. Could you first of all explain what is the English defense?
Yes, that's very important, and that's also one of my starting sentences for the pick inside video for my course, is that English defense is not 1c4. This is the English opening.
Right.
And people, even on higher levels, confuse it because they ask me what I'm going to suggest after 1c4 something. So first of all, my course is for black. And the English defense is the opening that arises after d4, e6, c4, b6. This is the English defense. Like 15, 20 years ago, people would say, like, okay, 15, 20 maybe not, but 50 years ago, if you played like that, people would say you are crazy and you shouldn't be playing chess because it just gives white a big advantage. You know, nowadays when the engines got stronger, I think most openings are playable. And I'm not going to claim I found full equality, but what I found is a ton of fun, a ton of tactics, tricks, different traps that white might fall for. And I still believe in the sentence that I wrote in the course, that after white goes for this main line, for example, with knight c3, bishop b4, e4, bishop b7, in the vast majority of cases, people's theory is going to end here and they are going to be on their own.
If not earlier. I mean, I feel like...
If not earlier, of course, yeah. People who play like d4, they know how to play against the King's Indian, against the Nimzo, Queen's Gambit declined, accepted, Slav. Maybe they know how to play against the Grunfeld, Benoni, Dutch, stuff like that. Who has the time to even look at this English defense? Like d4, e6 already is a surprise.
Right.
Yeah, c4, b6 is like shock to most people. It appears in less than 1% of games after d4. And yeah, people will usually will not know what to do in this position. And that's also one of the key factors when I'm working on my courses. Is this going to be a big surprise value? Like I had the same idea with when I was working on this Damiano Petrov. It was like, you know, the reputation of this opening is pretty bad. But then the real question is how bad actually it is. And it turns out it's not that bad. Of course, if white is going to be very, very well prepared, then they might have a slight edge in some endgame. But then
is
you
that
have
the
to
one
be
where
prepared.
black plays knight takes e4 right away?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, this is what Hikaru was talking about. Yeah.
Okay.
And he was playing this. Yeah, he tried this, I think, 3
and
times.
he called you an IM, right?
GM.
Okay. Beautiful. Yeah.
Yes. The best game of my life.
Yeah. And so one thing we should point out about the English defense in particular, obviously, if you're going after d4, you're playing e6. You have to have some familiarity with the French defense. So luckily you've done work on the French defense as well, but just want to make sure listeners are aware. Is there any sort of sideline you could give in I'm just brainstorming here, but after say d4, e6, if they go e4, could you play c5 and try to just play some dodgy like Benoni hybrid, or obviously you could end up in like a Sicilian Taimanov or whatever, or a Khan. But is there anything else people who want to play this but don't know the French could do?
Yeah, so the first thing I would like to point out is that after d4, e6, e4 happens in approximately 6 to 8% of the time.
Right.
So it's once every 15 games on average. So it's not a lot. Usually when somebody plays d4, e6, he doesn't want to play the French with white. But yeah, to answer your question, there are a few options which are not included in the course because objectively they are not great. For example, the engine's favorite is second move a6.
Wow, crazy.
Yeah, the best second move after d4, e6, e4 is to play a6. c5 is possible, but then you have to be ready first for the Benoni. Second after knight f3 is going to be an open Sicilian, so like Taimanov, Khan, stuff like that. Again, possible. But
yeah, you got to know that stuff too. So
yeah. But for a lifetime repertoire, I don't think it would be a suitable choice. So, but my course is on d4, e6, but there is also an extra chapter on d4, d5. So I'm also giving people a choice. So you can answer d4, d5 and just completely ignore this English defense section, because it's not only the course about the English defense, but it's about every single move from white that is not 1e4.
Okay.
So it is, together with the French defense, it's going to be a full repertoire for black. But I know that there are going to be people who don't want to meet d4 with e6, and I gave an extra chapter on d4, d5, c4, e6, knight c3, and h6.
H6, wow.
H6. Because after d4, e6, knight f3, d5, c4, knight f6, we have the main position of the Queen's Gambit declined when white plays knight c3, and I here recommend h6 as well. So as you can see, I try to go for as untrodden paths as possible and avoid anything that has been analyzed before. If it's playable, I'm going to probably work on it and try to make it work with the engines, especially.
Man, these little rook pawn moves are taking over, I feel like, the a6s and h6s and the random positions.
You know, with h6 you stop bishop g5 forever.
Yeah.
It can't be that bad.
Yeah, no, it's true. It does make sense. And Kamil, I mean, as someone who's done so much work on openings, what's your relationship like with engines? Are you going for the strongest, like cloud-based engines, or are you just using something on your PC? And how important do you think that is for the more offbeat lines?
That's a very nice relationship. I would say one of the strongest examples of symbiosis. So it depends, because there are some positions that has to be calculated precisely. Then I switch on the cloud. I usually go for the strongest clouds possible, and then, they do the job for me. For example, when there is some variation that I'm struggling with, I'm usually going to work with cloud engines. And when there is going to be a variation that is going to be pretty positional and technical, then I usually work with my engines, but I would say that this is pretty rare. When I'm creating the theory for the course, usually I use cloud engines. I would say that on average, it's going to take me 20 to 25 hours just to do the theory without any comments.
Okay, man.
Yeah, and having a strong engine helps, because without them it would be like triple that time.
Wow.
So it will be like 60 to 75. And this course was also very specific from one perspective, because it's course number 14 that I've done. But one thing that really was pretty annoying for me is that usually when I'm going to work on some course, I do the list of variations that are going to be included, and I already have some conspect and some ideas. In this course, the only thing that was unchanged was the English defense. Every single other part that I had planned was changed during the process. So, for example, I had to find the line against the Catalan. I found the line against the Catalan. I did the theory. I had like 100 variations ready. And then I was like, okay, I've done the theory, but I'm a little bit unhappy with this because this doesn't fit the style of the repertoire. So I'm going to look for something else. Then I spent like 1-2 extra days to find some other variation. Then I found it and I was like, no, I also dislike it because it's too one-sided. And then only variation number 3 is what now we have in the course. And this also happened with the Queen's Gambit declined. It also happens with English defense. It also happened with the Reti. It happened with every single variation other than English defense and London. The only ideas that I had at the beginning that stayed like unchanged are English defense and London. Everything else was changed. So basically the amount of work I've put into that course was higher than with the courses that have more variations because of all of the changes that I've done in the process. Because even though the line objectively, theoretically, it was good, then from the practical perspective, I wasn't that sure. Then I checked the statistics, which I always do, and I saw that white is scoring like 57-58% in some lines. And it's too high. It's just too high because it shows that even though objectively we are doing fine, white has all the fun.
Yeah. I mean, that's good advice. And can you tease what since you said as the London is so popular below the 2000 level, what do you recommend? Like, without getting too deep into the chess variations.
Yeah. So it is widely considered that the London is the most effective against systems with e6 for black. So we are already at a little bit of disadvantage at the beginning because, well, we play e6 on move number 1. So the system that I'm going to recommend involves playing quick d5, c5. And then when white commits to c3, we go bishop d6. If white doesn't commit to c3, we go knight f6 and adjust. But basically what we want to do is to play bishop d6. There will be the main line, one main line where white doesn't play c3 at all. Then we don't play bishop d6, but we prefer to play queen b6. and then go for a very cool maneuver, bishop d7, bishop b5 to trade the light squared bishops, French style. So, I connected the dots somehow because, I have this course on the French defense, which is going to be complementary with the English defense to build a full repertoire, and still the ideas from the French are implemented here.
Okay, good stuff. Yeah, and I do love the degree of explanations you have in your courses, and the sort of holistic feel. Good stuff.
I tried to do my best so that because I try to do my courses so they really suit everybody. It's like if you're a strong player, you are going to be able to use them because they are very thoroughly engine checked and they are ready for you. But if you are a lower rated player, club player, improving player, still it's going to be good for you because you don't have to use the whole course. You can just use the quick starters, which I am also doing myself. You can use quick starters, and then you have all kinds of explanations. And maybe you will not memorize the whole course, but you will understand 90% of the most important things just from reading the comments, I would say.
Yeah. I'm sold, Kamil. It's just I don't play the French, so it's a big issue for me. Yeah, I don't know the French at all, and that's a big undertaking. I mean, I've played against it, but...
Yeah. People usually prefer to play against.
I don't like the French or either side, to be honest. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I'll brainstorm it because I have played some time out of. So maybe that's the solution. All right. But anyway, Kamil. So hope you get back on the horse in the OTB streets at some point. Even if you need another 4.5 year break, you got to get that title at some point. Do you have any closing chess advice for our listeners / viewers?
Closing chess advice. Now you got me by surprise, but I'm going to say, don't allow other people to tell you what to do with chess or what not to do with chess. Because if you have a coach and you really want to improve fast, and the coach is going to tell you, then you just should stop doing that and start doing that. Then he's right. But sometimes people are just going to give you this unsolicited advice where they will tell you, don't do this. And, I would say don't listen to them because first and foremost, chess should be fun.
Yeah.
Chess should be fun. This is the game that 99% of people are going to play just to have fun. If you play chess and you do something that is going to bring you fun, you can be bullet, blitz, 960, backhouse, doesn't matter. If you enjoy it, do it. It's like maybe not a good idea to spend 100% of the time on your chess by doing that. But even when I was watching those, like reading the Faustino Oro story, the guy from Argentina, I know, he's like training like hell, but still like 30 to 40% of the time that he has, he's spending on chess to have fun. Play blitz, stuff like that. It's always going to be important, in my opinion, to remember that chess is supposed to be fun. It wasn't fun for me in Serbia, so I stopped playing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the first place. I think do what you enjoy.
Yeah.
And don't let other tell you to do otherwise.
Yeah, I agree. That should be everyone's North Star, everyone's guiding light. Yeah, and that's why it can lead to breaks or withdrawals at times. But we always come back.
Yeah.
Sooner or later. And it was good to have you back, Kamil. So the course is called The English Defense. His other courses are all highly reviewed. And in some cases, you can check out peek insides and free previews and stuff like that. But Kamil, good to catch up after all this time.
Thank you very much for the invitation, Ben. And take care, everybody. And I hope that you will find a lot of enjoyment in your chess.